The Vibe K5 Note is Lenovo's attempt to capture the affordable smartphone market. Now there's already a lot of competition in this space from phones like the Redmi Note 3 and Lenovo's own Moto G4 and ZUK Z1. So in spite of all this competition, does the Vibe K5 Note stand a chance, and is this the phone that you should buy? Well, let's find it out in my full review of the Lenovo Vibe K5 Note. Starting things off with design and build quality, the K5 Note looks like a blend of the Le Echo Le 2 from the front and the Redmi Note 3 on the back. The back is made out of aluminium, which gives it a nice feel in the hand, but the sides for some reason are made out of plastic. As a result, the power button and the volume rockers do feel quite cheap to use. Even the Redmi 3S, which is a much cheaper smartphone, has better buttons than the K5 Note. It does not affect the functionality of the phone, but it does give a slightly cheap feel. Overall, the build quality is good for the price, but it's not the best in the segment. The fingerprint sensor is located on the back and it is good and responsive. It is overly responsive at times, and it did trigger sometimes when the phone was in my pocket. There's also a loudspeaker at the back, which was surprisingly loud and clear. Lenovo keeps boasting about the Dolby audio system on this phone, and it definitely sounds better than some of the smartphones in the segment. However, I would have preferred the speakers to be on the front or on the bottom because the audio gets muffled when you keep the phone on its back. The audio output via the headphone jack was also really good. In fact, it's better than any other phone in this price bracket. Lenovo is also offering the Ant VR headset with the K5 Note. So they are targeting people who consume a lot of media on their smartphones, and the K5 Note definitely excels when it comes to media consumption. Moving on to the insides of the K5 Note, we have an octa-core Helio P10 CPU along with 3 or 4 GB of RAM and a Mali T860MP2 GPU. These specifications sound very mediocre as compared to some other phones, and honestly I did not expect this phone to perform well, but the K5 Note surprisingly performs really good. I have already done a gaming review of this phone in which we saw that it had no issues in handling some of the heavy-end games. The memory management was also good on the phone, and the Helio P10 CPU had no issues in handling day-to-day usage on the phone. That's because the Vibe UI from Lenovo is not very heavy, and it is in fact majorly based on stock Android. It does have a few useful additions though, like using the fingerprint sensor to carry out some other functions, and Secure Zone, which lets you have 2 different accounts on the same phone. The quick settings bar is also neatly designed, but I have a few complaints with the Vibe UI. First of all, Lenovo should not have given so many pre-installed apps on this phone. I know some of them can be uninstalled, but they could have just given the phone without these extra apps. Also, while the Vibe UI is smooth overall, I did notice minor stuttering in some animations quite a few times, especially in apps like YouTube. Hence, Lenovo should definitely work on refining their user interface with the help of some software updates. Moving on to the camera of the K5 Note, we have a 13 megapixel f2.2 sensor on the back and an 8 megapixel sensor on the front. The camera app is very bare bones and you get a few basic features with it. The image quality, however, is very impressive on the K5 Note. Pictures in daylight look very good. The contrast and saturation is a little on the higher side, but overall the images look good when the lighting is right. Moving on to indoor conditions, the K5 Note struggles a bit here as the images tend to have some amount of noise in them. The camera also shoots up the ISO quite high, and sometimes I click better pictures by manually adjusting the ISO. In extremely dimly lit conditions, the images are just average like any other smartphone, and still the Moto G4 Plus is the king of this segment. The 1080p video is also decent, but I had to use touch to focus as I could not find any continuous autofocus setting. Moving on to the display of the Vibe K5 Note, we have a 5.5-inch 1080p IPS panel that does a decent job. It has good viewing angles, decent colors, and you can even tweak the display settings like saturation and white balance according to your preference. Overall, it's a good display and you will have no issues in things like watching a movie on this phone. The Vibe K5 Note comes with a 3500 mAh battery that easily lasted me for a full day without any issues. I got anywhere between 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, which is good, and I have no complaints when it comes to the battery life of the Vibe K5 Note. You also have dual SIM card support on this phone, and in fact you can also use one of the SIM card slot as a memory card slot. Both of these SIM cards support 4G, but there is no VoLTE support as of now. This is a huge bummer because most of the phones in this price now come with VoLTE. Lenovo says that the phone does have the hardware and they will enable it with a software update. I am quite skeptical about that because I have received 2 updates as of now, but there is no VoLTE support yet. So this is something I wanted to point out about the Vibe K5 Note. Now the question is, should you buy the Vibe K5 Note considering its competition? Well, I don't really have a definite answer for that, and it really boils down to your personal preference. If you are someone who uses a smartphone primarily for watching videos and media consumption, then the Vibe K5 Note is definitely a viable option. Lenovo has some offers with the K5 Note wherein they are offering a VR headset as well as a gaming controller at a cheaper price. In fact, they also have some sort of exchange offer on Flipkart, so you might be able to get yourself a really good deal. For people who like rooting and installing custom ROMs on their phone, I would suggest you to stay away from the K5 Note because MediaTek chipsets in general have a bad developer support. You are better off buying a Redmi Note 3 if you would like to use custom ROMs on your phone. But when it comes to media consumption and the camera, the K5 Note is definitely better than the Redmi Note 3, so it ultimately depends on your usage pattern. That concludes my review of the Lenovo K5 Note. Please like the video if you enjoyed watching it and also subscribe to the channel for more upcoming reviews. My review of the Xiaomi Redmi 3S Prime is also coming up soon. Do let me know your questions and feedback about this phone in the comments, and you can also follow me on my social media pages. Thanks for watching and I will see you guys in the next video.